That looks good, man. Good job. Hey, hold yours up, my friend. Hold yours up. That's slick. So I really got inspired with creating a Nelson Mandela International quilt when I really thought back on how I was raised and how my family would produce quilts, and produce quilts which recorded memory and recorded stories. And throughout my life, I've been around people that were amazing quilters. I think about an artist by the name of Joyce Scott and her mother, Elizabeth Scott, who produced these amazing quilts, but they were not quilts that were meant to be just something that you just put on a wall. They were meant to be something that was tangible, that you could actually put your hands on or wrap around you. They were living things. When I started talking to my students about Mr. Nelson Mandela, I really wanted to figure out a way to produce a project, a group project that had that same quality, where it was something that you could touch, that was tangible, something that could provide comfort, something that felt like something that would protect you. And those are some of the things that Mr. Mandela symbolized for people. I mean, he protected and felt like a tangible person, a person that they could connect with. And I thought that there would be no better way than to have my students produce this quilt.
We're going to do a quilt which would commemorate Nelson Mandela. And if it works out, you guys would create the little squares like you did. Wait a minute, no questions yet. Just like the squares that you did, that same thing. We would create those squares, and then the students, I'd go to South Africa and work with students that would do the exact same thing. I would go. And we'd take both projects and combine them to make a beautiful quilt. The good thing about it is, if it works out, it will create an exchange with you and the students in South Africa. So possibly we could do some Skyping, we may be able to do emails if possible, and maybe even letters or pictures.
This quilt tells a story. It's a story not only of just Mr. Nelson Mandela or about the basic theme of what all humans deserve or should have, but also it shows a specific snapshot of each student. Each student put their own personal touch on this quilt, and they all added to it. They all took these pieces of fabric and produced their own version of Nelson Mandela and what he means to you. And all of those pieces are then put together in this quilt, which is meant to last for years to come. And if it gets to a point where it's no longer displayed on a wall, well, this is a serviceable quilt. It can actually be on someone's bed. It can actually provide warmth. It can provide comfort for somebody for years to come. So that's really where this whole concept of creating the Nelson Mandela International Quilt came from. So this was an amazing journey with this Nelson Mandela International Quilt Project. I was so fortunate because I worked with a series of amazing students in San Francisco at Dr. Charles Drew Elementary School, and also I had a chance to travel throughout South Africa and actually work with students there to complete these amazing quilts. These are some examples of some of the squares that the kids worked on. So each student got a square, which was a fabric square, which had an image, a printed image of Nelson Mandela, and they were able to actually embellish and add whatever they wanted to them. Some of the students actually, particularly my students in South Africa, they took it to a step further, and they didn't even want a pre-printed image, so they actually created their own image. I was just blown away with the level of interest that all of the students had. In particular, when I spent time in a township outside of Cape Town called Kailesha, and also I worked in a township in the Midlands and also in Durban. And there was, at a certain point, some of the students, we didn't even have a workspace. We just had an open field and no tables, just a few chairs and an open field. And there was probably more than 50 students that showed up for the project. And I gave them pieces of the fabric, they took the paint, they took markers, they took pens, and without any hesitation, they immediately started creating these amazing pictures of Mr. Nelson Mandela. Also in the township in Kailesha, I was actually brought into someone's home. She actually brought me into her home and gathered different students in the township. And we all just sat, and some were on the floor, some were on tables, and they just completely engaged in this project. There was some uphill battles with the project, but it all worked out. There were things that were unexpected and unpredictable along the way, but it actually came together, and they just turned out to be just these beautiful quilts, which to me is just so exciting. Each one represents a specific theme around Mr. Nelson Mandela. One represents the basic needs that all humans deserve. One is the need for clean water. The other is the need for nutritional food. The other is for shelter, and the other one is for clothing. So they represent these basic needs. And Nelson Mandela is the key figure for all of that, because he fought for the rights of people in South Africa, and he inspired people around the world, where people deserve these basic needs, and basic needs around humanity and having a voice and being treated as an equal to anyone else. I was truly blown away when I went to Robben Island during my trip in South Africa. Robben Island is the island where Mr. Mandela was held for many, many years. It's an island which is a prison. Now it's an actual historic site. But I actually went and walked around Robben Island and spent time in his cell, actually looking into his cell. And it just was amazing to think that this person was able to basically stay focused and to be able to come out such an incredible leader in this small, tiny cell with very little provisions and just horrendous situations that he had to endure in this tiny little cell. So to spend all of that time there and then to come out and to become this amazing, inspiring person, which became the president, the first black president of South Africa. South Africa has an amazing landscape. It varies. Cape Town in many ways reminds you of San Francisco. It has the similar beauty, has the hills, or there they have mountains. They have the beautiful, the oceanfront areas. So it's very, very similar to San Francisco in many ways. But I also, when I traveled into the Midlands area and into Natal and Drakensberg, it just was amazing just how the landscape completely changed. And in the Midland areas, I traveled to an area where I went to a game reserve. And there I actually went on a safari with some of my friends, and it was just absolutely beautiful. Just to see animals in their natural habitat, seeing just amazing lions hunting, seeing zebras, seeing herds of of water buffalo. Being in that environment was just amazing, and also it just reminded me of how connected I am to this natural environment, and how although I live in a city and live in these environments, I still have to always have a connection and a reminder that that's where I came from. That is, being a part of nature is where we all come from. At one point when I was working in one of the townships, a township called Quilt, the kids, the students there, they wanted to show me some of the dances that they've developed. And they have this amazing tradition of Zulu dance. The students actually took the Zulu dance and incorporated a more modern version of it. And it's almost hard to describe, but it was absolutely breathtaking. One of the final things that happened towards the end of my project, and I was leaving one of the townships, the students sang a Zulu farewell song to me, and it almost brought me to tears. Although they were worlds away, I mean, South Africa is thousands of miles away from San Francisco, but the students in the Bayview and the students in Cape Town or throughout South Africa has so many similarities. Number one, when you go to South Africa, it's amazing the amount of diversity. It is, I would say, the same amount of diversity that you would see anywhere in the United States. When I went into the schools, I saw students that looked just like some of my students in San Francisco in the Bayview. When we actually sat and talked, they were dealing with many of the same issues. I talked to students in South Africa that told me stories of how their parents during the apartheid had been pushed out and had to leave the areas and were pushed into townships. Similar, I talked to students in my classes in the Bayview, and they're dealing with issues of their parents losing their houses through gentrification, through predatory loans, through just having a difficult time being able to maintain these houses and losing them, and being forced or leaving San Francisco and leaving the Bayview. So I saw tremendous similarities. Also, kids do what kids do. I saw kids that were extremely excited about the project and they wanted to have fun. And just like my kids in the Bayview, the students in South Africa, they wanted to have fun. They wanted to have the freedom to paint and produce anything they want. Sky's the limit. So with that, I saw complete similarities with both bodies of students.
Look at my little man.
Yeah, look at him.
The quilts are a part of a traveling exhibition. So they're actually on their journey. They're going to be on a traveling exhibition. And then eventually they can make their way into South Africa. So they're going to see the world just like I did. They're going to travel. I want to thank everyone that helped with this project. I'd like to thank all of the people that helped donate to make this project possible. I want to thank Quilt Works for their amazing techniques of sewing to help me sew all these pieces together. I want to thank Christine Mays. She's an artist of 3.9 that helped me produce, sew some of these amazing quilts. And I want to thank all of the children of Charles Drew, children of the Township of Kailisha, the Township of Cato Manor, the children of the Preparatory School, which is in Curry School, which is in the Midlands and Cape Town. I want to thank all of them, because without you, without the students, none of this could have happened.